Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Project Pro AI Monetization Podcast, where we speak with industry leaders on what tangible outcomes they are seeing with AI and its impact on team members. It's no one better to talk about this, and as our guest today, Josh. Josh is the founder and CEO of the Josh Bersin Company, who are the world leaders in research, advisory, and professional development for HR and L&D teams worldwide. They reach out to over a million HR professionals through their publication, research, etc. Josh is also on the board. He's a board member of the University of California, Berkeley's Haas School of Business Executive Education Program. And before this, through his experiences at IBM and Sybase and Arista, Josh founded the Bersin Associates, which was acquired by Deloitte in 2012, where he spent a few years before starting the Josh Bersin Company. Josh, it's a pleasure having you on the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Binny. It's great to be here.
Awesome. Josh, to begin with, you've kind of seen the transition of learning and skilling through various technology waves, right? I mean, there was the internet wave, which probably helped in the distribution of learning content. There was mobile, which probably further helped in distribution of learning content. AI is not so much a distribution wave; it's more it kind of transforms product more efficiency production-oriented wave. What do you think is different this time with skilling and learning?
There's a huge paradigm shift that's existential here, and I appreciate you asking the question that way, Benny, because I think it's not just features of AI being applied to existing models; it's a different model. So I've been doing corporate training since around 1998. And basically, it's a pedagogical paradigm of I'm the teacher and I'm going to find some way to teach you what I know through a face-to-face class, an online class, a video, or some form of a course that has instructional activities in it. Maybe a Zoom meeting, maybe some exercises, maybe you get to have a tutor. You get a test and so forth. And at the end of this pedagogical activity, you're smarter than you were before. So there's two huge problems with this. One is it takes a long time to consume. The second is it takes a long time to build. So what happens is companies flood their employees with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these learning programs and hope that people are going to consume them. Which they do when they're needed and when they're mandatory, but usually not. A lot of the training programs in companies don't get consumed. What AI does, and the reason that's so difficult is this is a publishing model. You have a publishing process of taking the information, ideas, and content and publishing it, and then a distribution problem of getting it in front of somebody with a phone or a computer or some other mechanism. Along comes ChatGPT. And in 1 year, we have 1 billion people using it. The reason 1 billion people, they're mostly using it for learning. They're learning it, they're using it to ask questions, get the answers to questions, and then, of course, generate content from those answers. And so the appetite for learning has been constrained by the approach we've taken. The approach we've taken is basically the same approach we used in grade school, which is go to class and learn from an instructor. Well, at work, we're busy. We have a lot of other things to do. We'd like to learn, something that's important to the problem we're dealing with today in our job. Sometimes we want to know the big picture. Sometimes we don't want to know the big picture. We just want to answer a question. And so what you can do with AI is you can take all of these expertise areas, content areas, expert experiences that people have had, systems, data, tech things, methodologies, compliance rules, policies, all that. We can stick it into an AI platform and it can dynamically generate content for people as they need it. That is a completely different paradigm. That's why it's going to be so existentially different in learning and development and training, and eventually in education too.
That's very well said, Josh. And I really liked how you framed the two sides of the problem. There is the problem of the creation, and there's the problem of, the distribution and consumption of
Oh
what
yeah,
is
and then
created.
oh by the way, so I didn't even get into all the problems of creation.
Hmm.
So I want it in 10 languages. I want a version for young people. I want a version for experts. I want a version for people in this role. I want a people.
Yeah.
So what happens in L&D is we built all of these personas and role-based learning and skills-based learning and trying to figure out how to make this stuff more consumable, none
Yeah.
of which work really well. With AI, the individual gets their own experience. And
Yeah.
we now have systems like our system, which we call Galileo Learn,
Yeah.
is basically not only a bunch of courses that are
Hmm.
dynamically generated, but you can
Hmm.
ask a tutor in every
Hmm.
course any question you want, or you can ask a tutor across all of the courses any question you want, because
Hmm.
maybe you're in the wrong course. You
Hmm.
know, so
Yeah.
I mean, the paradigm is so much better
Hmm.
potentially. L&D people have to rethink this sort of mentally for a while, but
Yeah.
once they get it, they're going to see a
Hmm.
totally different way of of educating people and informing people. And also, by the way, it's also an enablement tool. I mean, even the idea of training and education is a
Hmm.
little bit off base at work because we don't learn for the sake of learning at work. We learn for the sake of doing something.
Precisely.
And so it's a little more of an enablement problem than it is a learning problem. We call it
Yeah.
learning because we didn't
Hmm.
really have another word for it. But
Hmm.
um, I don't have time to take courses very often. I'm too busy, but I'm always learning things. That's as
Yeah.
well as everybody else. So
Hmm.
if I can, get stuff quickly and then
Hmm.
go back later to dig in as I need it, I'm perfectly happy and I'm going to learn a lot more, a lot faster.
Yeah. Yeah. And the a very recent example comes to mind that kind of illustrates some of the problems you just mentioned, right? Just day before yesterday, I was meeting um the head of data science at like a top five life sciences company. And
Hmm.
she was telling me, hey, in February, we worked with this other company and we custom built online training program for my team. So custom built, meaning she went around getting feedback, and that other company literally built this course modules only for them. And that took about, I think, 3 or 4 months. Goes to your first point about the problem and the time it takes to create these things. And she's like, guess what? Very few people use it right now. Even though they told us in February that they wanted it, they told us what they wanted. We created it and gave it to them, but nobody's using it. Goes to both the problems that you were just telling
Well,
me.
and and like that's why I think this is a paradigm shift. When
Hmm.
somebody says we want to, I'm working for Brand X Insurance Company and I want a course on data science.
Hmm.
What are you talking about? There are
Hmm.
thousands of topics. You're
Exactly.
talking about the tech, or you're talking about the math, or you're talking about the SQL, or you're talking about the analysis, the
Hmm.
visualization, the storytelling. I mean, what part of it?
Hmm.
So then you get into building a curriculum, and then it takes months and months and months and months.
Yeah.
And of course, that's the only way we could do it before AI.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so I mean, that's not surprising to me. I think there's going to be a lot of shocking wake-up calls in companies where they're going to
Hmm.
look at all these courses that they
Hmm.
paid a lot of money for, and they're going to say,
Yeah.
"We don't need very much of this anymore."
Yeah. Yeah. On the creation side, Josh, traditionally we are used to inside the companies, maybe instruction design teams using tools like
Right,
Articulate and Adobe
right,
Captivate,
right,
and
right,
going
right.
through the ADDIE framework and making these courses. Or outside, you have large companies that give you repositories of these courses. And so essentially, that paradigm is basically a central source of course creation being sent out, distributed everybody out at the company. Do you think that's really going to change completely? And like you
Yeah, I
said,
do.
content is created at the point of need dynamically.
Yeah, yeah, I really do. So
Hmm.
let me mention two things about this. First of
Hmm.
all, instructional design is a valid domain of business
Hmm.
or education.
Hmm.
However, I've worked in training companies. I've run training departments in our company. I
Hmm.
don't really know what instructional design people do.
Hmm.
Um, they have their own, sort of lexicon and approach to taking something and turning it into instruction. Um, but they're sort of in some sense locked into the past
Hmm.
of using the pedagogical paradigm of teaching.
Right.
They need to think about the world differently. I don't know what the new learning model is in
Hmm.
AI, but I
Hmm.
know that the consumption of AI generated systems is 100 times higher than
Hmm.
courses. Nobody, I mean, if you look at you think about our chatbot, Galileo, which has all our content in it, we get 10,000 queries a day.
Oh,
We have an online academy too. We never had anything close to that ever,
interesting. Okay.
nor will we, because
Uh-huh.
this is so much. So those of you out there listening to this that are instructional designers, I really think you should scratch your heads and work together and figure out what's the new model. I mean, I don't know what it is. I could probably guess.
Hmm.
Um, because there's novices, there's intermediates, there's stuff you have to learn and apply, and how do you get somebody to do a simulation and a test, and OpenAI might build. So that's the whole. So there's going to be
Yeah.
a rethinking of that. Now, in
Hmm.
terms of centralized versus distributed,
Hmm.
all of the best learning I've ever seen is at the point of need, not in the central L&D department.
Hmm.
The reason we have centralized L&D departments is it is complicated to build courses, and the average sales manager doesn't want to spend 5 hours building a course on how to do sales. They
Yeah.
just want to coach their salespeople and get them out there.
Yeah.
So centralized L&D is there because of this
Hmm.
complexity of building courses.
Hmm.
If we had a system, by the way, this is what we're doing with Galileo Learn. If
Hmm.
you imagine you had a system that had all of this content in it, the corporate blessed content, whatever it may
Hmm.
be, wherever it may come from, and
Hmm.
you're out in a business area, in a sales department or in a manufacturing plant or whatever your location may be, and
Hmm.
you're dealing with an issue that's very local to you that people are
Hmm.
having a hard time figuring out how to do, well, you could have
Hmm.
a conference call. You could say, all right, you guys, on Friday morning, we're going to talk about so and so because you guys are all making the same mistake and I want to discuss what's happening. Or you could interview a subject matter expert on the phone, take that recording, stick it in the AI, and say, hey, guys, I want you all to listen to this when you have time. And they don't even have to listen to it. They can just send a question and say, what's the main point in this?
Hmm.
Or generate a 5-minute podcast about this while I'm on the road, or whatever form they want to use. So,
Hmm.
once you get your head wrapped around the idea that the employees have an LLM at their fingertips,
Hmm.
um, I don't know what Central L&D does. And
Yeah.
Central L&D is certainly going to have leadership development programs and compliance and DEI and lots of corporate stuff, but that's just going to be one part of the repository that is shared. I
Yeah.
think a lot of the enablement content will be local.
Yeah.
That's why sales enablement groups are so big. The reason sales enablement is so big is because corporate L&D people can't keep up with what's going on in sales. Same thing with manufacturing. Same thing with a lot of areas. So
Hmm.
we have a whole white paper on this. We're already talking to companies about it. I think it's going to be a much more federated or distributed model for content.
Very interesting. And I want to go back to specifically to the Galileo example that you mentioned, Josh, was this when it used to be a repository of courses, you had nowhere close to 10,000 queries that you're getting with your AI agent.
Right.
Could you help us understand a little more on who is the target user for Galileo? What kind of
Yeah,
knowledge
sure.
does it provide, and what changed?
Well, we primarily serve the human resources profession, which is everybody from recruiters to L&D to CHROs to
Mm.
business partners to generalists to people analytics people, HR tech people. There's a whole bunch of job roles in
Mm.
HR, and we do a lot of research and we publish stuff and we do create beautiful design documents and maturity models and all sorts of things. We have a capability model, all sorts of stuff. We're really good at
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
And nobody has time to read it all. So what
Mhm.
happens is we build websites, we give
Mhm.
people search tools, we try to figure out how to organize it so they can find it. And we
Mhm.
find out they're consuming some of it, but they're
Mhm.
calling us a lot and they're saying, why don't
Mhm.
you guys just do a webinar for us for an hour? Because we don't know where to look for all the material. And by the way, we have a bunch of questions.
Mm.
And we're a 45 person company and we have
Mhm.
about 25 million HR people
Mhm.
we're serving. So, I mean, we know we have the content, but we
Mhm.
can't translate it into the personal needs of every HR person in
Yeah.
the old model. With Galileo,
Mhm.
we can. You can go to
Mm.
Galileo and ask it any question,
Mhm.
and just like any other, AI, you can ask it to develop an answer, to build a plan,
Mhm.
to explain the benchmarks, why it's making. It will assess you on your maturity in different things. I mean, we've trained it to take all this content we've built for the last 25 years
Yeah.
and be a consultant.
Yeah.
So we like to think of it in some ways as a digital consultant
Yeah.
or advisor or coach that
Hmm.
uses all the knowledge that we've accumulated over the last 25 or 30 years.
Hmm.
And it gives us a massive amount of scale. People can access our content at a very low cost. We charge thousands of dollars a year, tens of thousands, hundred thousands of dollars for companies to get access to our content. They can get Galileo for $400 a year, and they're getting everything we have. So it's spectacularly different in the way we
Hmm.
can serve the audience that we serve. And for an L&D department or a training department, they have the same exact problem.
Yeah.
All these
Yeah.
employees looking for stuff that
Yeah.
they can't find.
Yeah. Yeah. And, slightly crossing over from the problems of creation to the problems of consumption. This example that you mentioned where people can get all the information inside your reports and courses through the AI agent, is that a prime example of learning in the flow of work? Is that how you think about it? What other
Yeah,
examples do you
yeah,
have for
totally. I
learning?
mean,
Yeah. Mhm.
so the most popular implementation of AI in companies right now is an internal corporate agent or chatbot.
Mm,
Now, sometimes it's for policies and procedures and how to book vacation time and things like that.
mm,
But pretty soon it turns into everything.
mm.
So, so I think where the learning, delivery is going to go inside companies is it's going to go through the company bot. Whatever. So just to give you an idea of how it works in our particular case, so
Mhm.
Galileo has two pieces. It has a
Mhm.
learning server piece,
Mhm.
and then it has the agent.
Mm.
And so you can stick all the content in the server, and then when you ask the
Mhm.
agent a question,
Mhm.
it answers the question. It shows you all the resources that it used to answer it, and then on the
Mhm.
right side of the screen, it shows you learning, modules that you can consume or take if you want.
Mm. Mm.
Pretty soon, those things are going to pop up. So
Mhm.
you'll be in a situation where you're maybe asking it to generate a behavioral interview guide for me for this job candidate that I have, or assess the skills of this candidate, and
Mm.
a little object will come up and say, do you know what a skills taxonomy is? Do you want to understand how to interview better? Click here. So learning in the flow of work is going to finally be actually really easy.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I can see how powerful that can be. So there's almost as if it's a coming together of L&D and knowledge management
It
together into
is,
one place,
I
right?
mean, I think the word knowledge management has been so, maybe misused in different places. It means different things to different people, but
Yeah.
that's what it is.
Hmm.
It's content man. I like to think of it as dynamic content generation, but
Yeah.
smart. It's not
Yeah.
just generating it, into a listicle. It's
Yeah.
generating it into an instructional form that a person can learn from.
Yeah.
Um, and, I mean, the consumption of our learning platform is, I guess, not just the agent, but the learning part of it is, again, 100 times higher than it was before because
Amazing.
people can get what they need immediately. They don't have to click through pages to find what they're trying to learn. So,
Yeah.
and there are
Yeah.
times, and I know this myself, there are times when I want to get taught something. I don't know a
Mhm.
lot about this, and I want you to take me through the whole thing. So
Yeah.
there's still courses, and these AI generated content systems can generate courses really well.
Yeah.
We can do things like we could take a 200-page research report. Some of
Yeah.
our stuff's pretty big. So,
Yeah. Mhm.
there are definitely times when people want to do a course from beginning to end.
Mhm.
Maybe it's a new topic and they don't know much about it and they want to be stepped through it.
Yeah.
And these AI systems can generate courses in whatever form you want. In
Yeah.
particular, like our case, we can take a research report that might have been a
Mhm.
year of research, and it might be
Mhm.
200 to 300 pages with all sorts of
Mhm.
examples and stuff. And we can put it into Galileo Learn and we can say, generate a 2-hour, 15 module course targeted towards this level of understanding.
Yeah.
Please include 10 examples,
Mhm.
give the user 3 simulated experiences, etc. And it'll just create this thing.
Yeah.
And then we can go back and tweak it. So, something that would have taken us 3 months to build,
Exactly.
we can build in a day.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is exactly to our previous point about this is what instructional designers take a quarter to build.
Well, that's my challenge to those of you that are instructional designers is
Yeah.
what are you going to do?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
How are
fair
you going
point.
to? I really think instructional designers are going to learn how to use these systems really well, and they're going to
Yeah,
be able to build really cool stuff with it.
right, right. Yeah, I guess I think we all hope that, instruction design has always been a bottleneck. Maybe because of this, the same instruction designers can produce 10x more learning than what they could before.
Well, I mean, I remember, I in the early 2000s there was this idea of reusable learning objects. It was one of
Mm,
these early internet ideas came out of Cisco to change instructional design for the internet. It never worked
hmm
because very little of learning is reusable unless, it's very generic because
hmm
each, learner has a different reason for coming to the course.
Yeah.
So I remember the example was an electric utility. There was a safety course, and they had a module on what is electricity, what
Mm,
is voltage,
hmm
and that was reusable.
mm,
But that was the only stuff that was reusable because most of the other stuff was very domain specific. All of a sudden, everything's reusable.
mm, right. Yeah. Um, And just staying on the problem of creation thing, right? How do you think? And since you're on the board at Haas, the business school, how do you think
Yeah.
this will help universities? In the first wave of the internet figured education, the online edtech boom, universities could get a lot more access to learners. Learners could get teaching from the top universities because distribution was possible. What do you think is going to happen with
Well,
AI?
universities, I think they're in the same boat as me. And I
Mm,
know this, I've talked to the Berkeley people for years. Their universities are pockets of deep expertise. Each
mm,
faculty member, each research team is
mhm.
this huge knowledge repository of information in their heads and their books
Yeah.
and all the research they've done.
hmm
And again, they have to turn that into a course to teach a course.
Mm,
And then, of course, the reason people go to the university is because they want to talk to these faculty. They don't want to just take the course because they could do that
mm.
online.
Yeah.
So I think they're going to be very much in the same situation that we are, which is, and by the way, a lot of universities are worried about the intellectual property, and they don't want to put it into an LLM because they're worried that they can't keep it.
hmm
It'll be gone.
Mm,
But I think over time, the teaching process will involve a fair amount of face-to-face experience with faculty, of course, but a lot of AI-based learning experiences from the faculty and from the as a whole. It'll
hmm
be great, but they got to get their heads wrapped around this intellectual property problem because it's a big thing for them. They're
Yeah.
they're they're moving
Yeah.
slowly. And also individual faculty feel the same way. Faculty members write a book, they give speeches, they do consulting. They don't want to give their stuff away,
hmm
necessarily. They might.
Yeah.
But I think it's
Right.
going to go that direction.
Makes sense. And the other thing I was curious about, Josh, is that, for example, if you take a university and they have expertise, the professors have expertise in, let's say, 100 areas. And they're able to offer courses and degrees and executive education in those 100 areas. Do you think because of AI, and there is probably a very specific niche that they don't have expertise in, but because of AI, universities will be able to offer specializations in thousands of new tail end of niches?
Yeah, I mean, well, by the way, on executive
Mhm.
education, one of the reasons people go to executive education is to meet other executives. So
Mm,
that's a little bit of a different domain.
mm,
There's a lot of kind of need to be together on those, but
mhm,
I am sure that a lot of really intelligent, hardworking faculty members are
mhm,
looking at LLM technology to advance their own thinking and their own research faster and faster and faster because now they can find out what other universities and other faculty members in their domain are doing
mm,
at orders of magnitude more speed to
mhm,
improve the speed at which they're learning and the speed at which students can learn.
mhm,
So, I went to school, at two or three very fancy schools, and, each faculty member was an expert at something. But I don't know what they didn't know. I don't know
Mm.
what what their bias was against, because each faculty member was like just one box. We didn't have
Yeah,
access to all of it. We didn't even have the
yeah,
internet.
yeah.
Now, every, professor, faculty member kind of knows what everybody else knows.
Mhm.
So the expansive nature of universities is going to be fantastic. Um, I think it's unfortunate that we're in the United States. There's a lot of pushback on universities for non-academic reasons, but
Mhm.
um, I mean the AI technology is. I really think if you and by the way, I did this research a long time ago for in the internet. I think if
Yeah.
you looked at all of the billions and billions and billions of queries in ChatGPT and try to
Mm.
categorize them by information, content generation, news, learning, whatever, I'll bet you'd
Yeah.
figure out that 70% of them are learning.
Learning. Yeah. Yeah.
Very high number.
Very high. And which ChatGPT is one thing, but if you also go to all of these vibe coding tools out there, right, that help you spin up websites very quickly, like Replit
Yeah,
and LoveUp, all of that. When you
yeah.
go look at their featured apps, some of the largest number of featured apps are in education and learning that people are using these tools to build that they could have
Yeah,
otherwise.
because I mean, I think the human, I think about this a lot because I spend so much time with HR departments.
Hmm.
I think the human animal is a
Hmm.
curious animal.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think we have genetic instincts to learn. From the minute
Yeah.
we're born, we're learning
Yeah.
to read, we're learning to talk, we're learning to write, we're learning about the world. And I think we're always curious. People are curious about different things just based on their history and where they live and what they're interested in doing.
Hmm.
So we're satisfying that demand.
Hmm.
Now, of course, the downside of AI is if it's biased or they start putting ads into it, or,
Hmm.
inside of a company, luckily you're protected against that. In the public internet, let's see how well we can avoid it turning into, Google ads. But I mean, the reason it's growing so fast, I think, is this passion for quick answers to interesting questions that we all have that, we would never have asked because we don't have access to the encyclopedia or we don't have time to go into Google and search for it.
Yeah.
I walk around and I get up really early in the morning and I, basically turn on ChatGPT or Galileo on my phone. And
Hmm.
I kind of just talk to it when I'm going for a walk and ask it questions about things that I want to work on that
Hmm.
day.
Hmm.
And I think most people would love to have a little friend to just answer random questions for them.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, totally. Uh, one of the things from a learning modality perspective that has been popular over the last decade is just video learning. Uh,
Yeah.
how relevant do you think that is going to be in the AI mode of learning? Is that really a critical way people need to learn, or will people be okay with interactive text-based
No,
learning?
I think there's a reason video is so popular on the internet is it's much
Hmm.
more interesting and there's a higher bandwidth of content you can consume in video. You can view, listen, observe. There can be graphics, graphical representations of. I mean, the first time I started learning about AI and I had to try to figure out what a large language model was and how neural networking worked, I watched a beautiful video that showed how the neural net worked. And if I had
Yeah,
read about that in a book, I probably wouldn't have understood it. But I understood it
yeah.
very quickly from that video. So
Hmm.
we're going to still be generating video content. And by the way, the video will probably be in your glasses. We'll all
Hmm.
be wearing, you know, Ray-Bans or somebody else's glasses.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it won't be as, it's been very difficult to build video. You have to be a real producer.
Mm.
That's going to be done by AI too. So you could just
Yeah.
say to the AI, build me a video using the format of the file of the last 5 videos we did that explains this and show a diagram and please, create a simulated picture and, it'll probably do a pretty good job.
Mm. Yeah. No, that makes sense. And the other thing I was curious about was, I mean, traditionally, right? What consumers were ready to pay for is, from education perspective, they would pay for degrees, they would pay for
Right.
certificates, and companies would pay for professional skilling. Do you think in a AI world, does that change, or the reasons people pay for education stays the same, but the way that's delivered kind of changes? What do you think could happen there?
Well, so that gets into credentialing and accreditation and
Mm,
certificates, things like that. Um, in the early days of online learning, when I was
mm,
doing that, people were willing to pay a lot of money for online courses
mhm,
because they didn't have to get in a plane and go
mm,
somewhere to learn something. It was
mhm,
well worth paying $1,000 for an online course because it's $5,000 to spend a week, in some ed center that plus the hotel, plus all the wasted time.
yeah.
That quickly went down to very small numbers.
Mm,
I mean, you can get LinkedIn Learning for $30 a month with, I
yeah.
don't know, 10,000 courses in it. So, and a lot of the stuff's on YouTube. So the willingness of somebody to pay for really high quality learning has gone way down unless it has a great brand. If
Mhm,
it's from a highly authoritative source like
mhm,
us in HR or Harvard in leadership or whoever the best data science curriculum is, then people will pay for that because they trust it
yeah.
and they can kind of rely on it. Then the
Mhm,
question is, can they get credit for it in their career? Will it advance their salary? Can they go to their boss and say, look, I just finished this certificate program at so and so, I'm ready for a raise. Let me show you all the stuff I learned. And that's been a rat's nest because everybody built a pretend certificate for their courses
mhm,
that looks like a credential. And then you had companies like Credly that just kind of messed it all up by letting anybody put a badge on anything,
mhm,
which kind of was a little bit, it was interesting for a while and then it became
mhm,
silly.
mhm,
So I think where it's going to land up is there are credentialing organizations. And by the way, the government's trying to fix this. I just talked to the Department of Labor about this.
mhm,
They don't like the fact that there's a lot of credentials that are not worth anything, including university degrees, that you can
yeah.
get out of a university and nobody wants to pay you for your job because it's not a reputable university.
Yeah.
So there's this constant issue of what credentials are valuable in the market at a given time. And in
Mhm,
every functional domain, there's different ones. And I'm sure in data science and in tech, there are credentials that are very highly valued. And those credentialing organizations have to work really hard
yeah.
to maintain the authority and the reliability and the trust of their credential. I mean,
Yeah.
that's all we do. I mean,
Mm,
we don't put any information into any of our systems that we can't validate as being really useful.
yeah.
But a lot of content companies just thought, hey, this is a great way to make money. Let's throw a bunch of courses online and sell them.
Mhm,
And I don't think that's going to work so well anymore.
yeah. No, totally agree. And that brings me into this whole thing about one of the benefits of AI is the customization and personalization it can do to the content, and in our case, specifically learning. So, from your experience, I mean, there is some amount of personalization already with online learning. I mean, based on what you learned
Mhm.
before, it'll probably recommend similar courses and stuff like that. AI takes it to the next level. And my question is, how much benefit is there to this extra level of personalization that AI brings from an outcome perspective? Is it really that
I think
beneficial?
you'd be, Vinny, I think I think it's 100 times better,
Okay.
maybe 1,000 times better. Here's
Hmm.
why I say that.
Hmm.
When I go to Galileo and I ask
Hmm.
it a question,
Hmm.
it knows who I am.
Hmm.
It knows every other question I've ever asked it.
Hmm.
It knows my job role. It knows my
Yeah.
title.
Hmm.
It would know what company I'm in if I was in a company.
Yeah.
Um, and those systems are getting smarter by the minute.
Yeah.
So the system that you're interacting with now for learning or knowledge, whatever you want to call it,
Hmm.
is going to have a very, very pinpointed memory of what you've done in the past and who you are. By
Yeah.
the way, the memory in these systems is getting better all the time. They didn't have a
Yeah.
lot of memory for a while, but the
Hmm.
LLMs are starting to generate memory.
Yeah.
So I don't think it'll be very long before you're going to go to the system and you're going to say, by the way, I forgot how to do so and so. And the
Hmm.
system will say, oh, Josh, by the way, you asked me that last week, and here's what I explained to you. Have you had a problem applying it?
Mm.
I mean, I
Yeah.
can see the thing turning into this teacher coach It
Hmm.
says, "Oh, I'll be happy to answer that for you, but let me remind you, you asked me the same question 2 weeks ago, and maybe you need some help applying it."
Yeah.
Or,
Hmm.
and I tell you, I know this. It's very, very hard to do that in the old models. We didn't know who the learners were. We
Right.
maybe knew their job time.
Yeah.
Maybe we knew what company they were in.
Hmm.
Um,
Right. That's
we
a
didn't
great
know how
point.
smart, how much they knew. I mean, unless you had I mean, then you do things like let's have a pre-course assessment to place you into the course. That's ridiculous. Now I just have to wait 15 minutes to do that before I can actually
Right.
take the course I want to take. That never
Yeah.
worked.
Right. And great point. Like whenever I speak with instructional designers, right, one of the big problems I hear is they want to know if the content they made was actually helpful to the person who consumed the content, and
Well,
there's
okay,
really no
so
way
that's
to know
another
that.
benefit. So here's another, okay, that's another one. So
Uh-huh.
yes, I wrote a book on this. So you've
Uh-huh.
spent all this time, you build this beautiful course, you launch
Yeah.
it, you email it, you market it, you tell everybody how great it is. Then
Yeah.
somebody says, "Hey, what's the ROI of that course?" You're like, "I
Right.
don't know. A lot
Yeah.
of people took it.
Yeah.
They liked it.
Yeah.
Let, so you're always trying to figure out why are they consuming it, who's not consuming it, what are they getting out of it, how come they're not finishing, why they stopped at chapter 3. I mean, this is a never-ending thing. With
Yeah.
AI, you don't have to do that at all.
Hmm.
You don't care because
Yeah.
they're creating the experience they want, and you can look at the queries they're asking, and you can see what they're struggling with to
Hmm.
decide if you need more content. I mean, you're
Yeah.
going to get, I think the L&D or whatever these people, whatever this role will be called, will
Yeah.
be getting real-time information on what the problems are. Imagine if you had a dashboard
Hmm.
that looked at, you have an internal, AI system, you have a dashboard that's looking at the questions people are asking, and all of a
Hmm.
sudden there's a whole flurry of questions about
Hmm.
fire safety in one of the plants. Well,
Hmm.
I bet if there's a fire there,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
They don't want
Hmm.
a course on fire safety. They need help.
Hmm.
So, I mean, we're gonna get much, much closer to what the employees need now,
Hmm.
and we won't have to think about it as, oh, let's do a level 4 Kirkpatrick survey and then do an ROI analysis and come back 3 months later and prove that the course was worth building.
Hmm. Yeah. And
I mean, by the way, I'm not being negative about L&D. The reason we
mhm.
did it this way is we didn't have any tools like this.
True. Yeah, it was a great starting point. That's the way it had to be done.
Yeah.
And see, today, at least from my limited experience looking at L&D and L&D budgets inside a company, my view is that L&D budgets are usually deprioritized inside companies. So my question is, do you agree? Is that the case today? And number two, will that change in the age of AI, or is there a different way to position these solutions to prioritize these budgets?
Very good question and a very interesting question. So I think if you sat in staff meetings of every single company on every issue they're facing, there would be a
Mm.
conversation about somebody needing more training.
Hmm.
Sales numbers are down. Well, we need to train people on how to do this. The revenue or the manufacturing line is slow. Well, we got to train these guys how to do this.
Mm.
This is a never-ending issue in business.
Yeah.
How do we get people to be a little better at their jobs, to solve problem A, problem B, problem C? And
Mm.
then we've got a new thing, a new product, a new initiative, a new business we're going into. We got to train people on that.
Hmm.
So there's always a demand for training. The training department is viewed as a cost center. It's not viewed as a revenue center. In fact, a lot of companies think of it as just pure expense. I
Hmm.
always think of it as investment. I mean, I
Hmm.
kind of wish L&D was treated as a capital, not expense, but that's
Yeah.
never going to happen.
Mm.
So, but it actually is an investment because you're, building the skills of your workforce and you're increasing the capabilities that they have over time. Um, so the budgets in general across all of the companies in the world are around $1,200 to $1,500 per employee per year. It's a $400 billion industry. It's a massive industry.
Hmm.
And when the training departments are cut, training moves somewhere else because it has to happen. If
Mm.
you're a sales leader or an organizational leader somewhere in the company and the training department is cut, you're going to do your own training anyway.
Right.
You're going to either hire a consultant or you're just not going to call it training, you're going to hide it. So there's
Right.
this budgetary expense of keeping
Hmm.
people trained that's just
Hmm.
never ending in companies, and great companies invest in it all the time. Like I was on the phone with L'Oreal, by the way, as an example of a company that always invests in L&D. I mean, they're in the beauty business, but they have to train people on beauty trends and products and marketing and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
So I think you're going to get more money, more value per dollar now, because a
Hmm.
lot of that training expense, that $400 billion, is administering the LMS, building courses that take 3 months to build, translating them into other languages, creating 16 versions of the course for people at different levels of expertise. That money now can be leveraged in a much, much better way. So maybe we won't need to spend $400 billion to do the
Yeah.
same amount of value. Maybe we can spend a lot less. And I think a lot of training departments are going to spend less money and get a lot
Yeah.
more done
Hmm.
as this AI world continues.
Great. And since you mentioned LMS, I have a question, Josh, with just given your extensive experience, right? Which is, I'm yet to meet one person, either a user or an administrator of an LMS who likes an LMS. So my first question is, how
Well,
did that become such a large business if nobody
okay, well,
ever
let me
likes it?
I'll give you the 1 minute, the history of this. So
Yeah.
before the internet, there
Mm.
was something called a TMS, training management system. It
Okay.
was a scheduling system for classrooms and books and slide projectors and enrollments. Because when
Mm.
you went to a course, you had to sign up for the course. They had to
Mm.
say, okay, we have a seat for you, pay your $1,500 and show up. And
Mm.
here's what time the course is, and you're going to get a
Mm.
book, and you're going to get a slide projector thing, and all of that had to be administered. So these were very much sort of administration systems.
Yeah.
Along came e-learning in 1999 or 2000, and there was no software to manage all those courses. So the
Yeah.
learning management system industry was born, and a lot of
Hmm.
those early companies, Saba, Docent, Click to Learn, they're all gone now. They've all been
Hmm.
acquired, but they
Hmm.
built administration systems for online content. They were never designed for learners. They were never designed for users. They were
Hmm.
never designed for video. They were never designed for high degree, dynamic publishing. They were
Hmm.
administration systems for online courses.
Hmm.
And the target user was the learning administrator. So
Hmm.
the reason people don't like them is
Hmm.
because they weren't designed as learning systems. They were designed as learning management systems.
Management systems.
So, we
Fantastic
use
point.
them as if they're places to learn, but they weren't
Yeah.
designed as places to learn. They were designed as places to manage the junk
Yeah. 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 Totally. A
stuff.
fantastic point. Yeah. And in this new
So
paradigm you
it's been a
mentioned,
lot of work over 25 years to try to get them to make them better. And all of a
yeah.
sudden, we're going to have a whole new generation of these things that are going to be AI driven.
Right. Right. And in this new paradigm of content at the point of need, do you think LMS just goes away?
Eventually, I mean, the
Hmm.
reason it won't go away anytime soon is there's
Hmm.
business rules and compliance rules and reporting and
Hmm.
administration and government regulatory stuff built into these systems. If you're a pharmaceutical company, you have to be validated, trained before
Hmm.
you can even go on the line of manufacturing a drug. And that's all
Hmm.
in the LMS. So these
Hmm.
LMSs are very much corporate infrastructure now. The
Hmm.
new AI systems are going to sit on top of them, and they're going to replace a lot of the functionality of the LMS. But I think the core, administrative part of many LMSs will probably be around for a long time. But they'll be
Hmm.
more like mainframes in the basement that'll be kind of doing things that we don't look at.
Okay. That's very, very well said. Yeah. Awesome, Josh. And just finally, for someone who's getting into their career right now, what guidance do you have for them on what should they prioritize for the next 10 years?
Well, I think if you're in any part of learning, education, HR, enablement, any of these roles, you need to get your hands dirty with this stuff and see how it works. And you can
Mm.
get Galileo Learn from us for, I don't know, $500 a year, and you get access
Mhm.
to everything, a whole bunch of content, the development tools, the entire environment. The
Mm.
faster you get your hands on this, the faster you'll see how you can reinvent your career and really help your company propel to this new world. Um, and I know L&D. I've been in L&D a long time. There's a lot of
Yeah.
very, very savvy, hardworking, technology enabled, smart people in L&D, and it's going to be a huge, interesting new. I think it's a revolution. We call it a revolution because this isn't an incremental change. This is a paradigm shift.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I think a little bit of the challenge is sometimes people say, let's use AI to build courses, and
Mm,
then stick the courses in the LMS.
mm,
That's kind of a joke. That's kind of a silly way to think about this. It's not AI to do your old job better. It's thinking about the role in a new form with this more dynamic content experience. So that's number one, is just educate yourself, get some hands-on experience, build some things for your company or your group, experiment with it, and all of a sudden you're going to realize you have a whole new world here.
yeah, that's very well said. Thank you, Josh. This has been very insightful. Really appreciate your time.
My pleasure, Benny. Thank you for inviting me.